So I am completely self-taught, pretty much, whatever that means. And I realise that I haven't, so far on this channel, really talked that much about my journey, like how I ended up here doing what I'm doing. So I thought I would just make a little video about what it means to be self-taught. Maybe it'll help someone who is feeling intimidated by the idea that in order to make anything worthwhile, you need to be taught how to do it by somebody else. Or at least these days, because I know so many people who have been through the whole kind of music production college, these private colleges, which cost a lot of money. I know a lot of people that have been through that system and who have come out of it maybe less than satisfied, or certainly disappointed that there wasn't a job waiting for them at the other end of it. I also thought I would give you a little look around the control room, because after last week's video quite a few people were sad that I didn't show the control room. Sorry about that. So yes, that's going to be this video. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and yeah, let's do it. So a kind of potted history of my musical upbringing or journey would be that one of my earliest memories was owning a Beach Boys record that my mum gave me. It was 20 Golden Greats, this kind of airbrushed surfer on the cover. I think they sold many millions of those. I absolutely loved it. It's literally one of my earliest memories, and I would sing along to it, and I think I would harmonise along with it, or I would listen to the harmonies. I was really obsessed with how did the voices sound like that, and I think that was the beginning of my kind of like harmony obsession, which it's definitely something that has stuck with me for my entire life and my musical career. I'm just very, very into vocal harmonies, and certainly later on when I was making music with my first wife, when I was 19, 20, that kind of age, it was just the two of us. I was playing guitar, she would sing, and I would harmonise with her, and that was basically our entire act, and I was in total heaven. It was just, to me, I was talking about it the other day, you know, we used to go to parties and things, and at some point we would take out a guitar and we would start singing together in harmony, and it would just it would kind of stop everyone dead. Everyone would stop and listen, because there are just really very few things in music which just grab you, like hearing two vocals harmonizing together. I like to think of strings being comparable. They kind of cut the air in a certain way. They really slice through the air, and I think vocal harmonies do the same thing. Anyway, so that Beach Boys thing was very formative for me, but I didn't really think about music back then. You know, I was singing in the choir at school. I was kind of fiddling with the piano. I think I had one piano lesson which I hated, and so I stopped. And then at some point when I was about 7, I was at my dad's house, and I started just learning Amazing Grace on the guitar. He had a kind of guitar songbook, and so I just looked at the tabs and I started just learning the guitar kind of from this book, very basically, very badly. But I guess back then there were a few less distractions, and certainly I was at my dad's house, and he was an illustrator. He was always working, so there wasn't really much else to do. Fast forward through my teenage years, I started playing drums in a band. My uncle gave me a drum set, which was very nice of him. I just found myself really falling in love with the idea of people playing together, like each person making their own sound, and you put them together and something magical happens. I guess a bit like the vocal harmony thing, but using all of these different sounds, and you put them all together and it kind of works. Fast forward a little bit more, and I failed all my A-levels except for one, which was ceramics. I think at that time my dream was to become a special effects guy for films. That was maybe something to do with my dad, because he was in science fiction illustration. And I wanted to do like animation or something artistic. I got my ceramics A level and I went to art college and didn't have a great time. It was kind of mid-90s. Everyone was obsessed with Damien Hirst and Tracy Emin. Everything had to be shocking. Everything had to be kind of just sort of highbrow, high concept. All I wanted to do was get better at making stuff, like the craft, basically. But that wasn't really on the menu in those years for some reason. So I ended up basically not going into college anymore. I decided, all right, screw it, I'm just gonna learn to write songs. I wanna write songs like the Beach Boys or the Beatles, or I want to write proper songs. Like, that's a really incredible craft, you know. It's art, but it's also, there's craft in those songs, like big time. I basically just locked myself away for a couple of years writing songs. I worked at the video shop. I was writing songs while I was sitting there, like in the afternoons. And at some point I got a 4-track cassette recorder and then an 8-track cassette recorder, and I started recording these songs that I was writing. I had this sort of routine. I was living with my mum then, and I would write a song and I would record it, and then I would proudly take it downstairs, and my mum and my stepdad would sit down and I would play them this new song, this recording that I had done. And I would say their feedback in those months, and I guess it was like a year or so doing that kind of thing, that was kind of cool to have. And or even though it was my mum, it was really cool to have feedback, an audience. And I just really fell in love with the idea that you can just write a melody line and some words and it can affect people. I think actually, I think I've mixed up the chronology here a little bit. But actually, I remember vividly the first time I realised the power of a song was when a friend of mine died at art college, and I wrote a song for him, and I played it to one of our mutual friends, and it just made him really break down and cry. And obviously, he was very sad about our friend dying, but it was almost like I realised that you can take something negative and you can turn it into something positive. That was a big lesson to me. That sort of became my mission after that. Like, okay, all the negative stuff in my life, I'm going to write about it and I'm going to make it into something beautiful. At some point, I started getting more into the recording side of things, which resulted in me building my first studio. That's another long story, but I basically built it out of rubbish, stuff that was lying around in skips in London back in those days. There was no rush hour in the middle of the night like there is now. And my dear friend Jock gave me his old car, which had a petrol leak. So I would put a bit of petrol in the car and I would zoom around London looking in skips, seeing what I could find. And I just put this studio together and I had no idea what I was doing. It kind of worked. It was very basic. It was just a small booth with a little kind of control room area outside. Super basic. I even built the booth. I remember I just had no idea what I was doing. I made these kind of boxes out of like bits of plywood that I found, and I just stuffed them full of carpet underlay, which is this kind of foam that in England they put this foam underneath fitted carpets to make them extra soft and luxurious. And there was a carpet warehouse where they would throw away all the old underlay from houses where they had replaced the carpets. And I just basically rolled all that stuff up into these big rubber sausages and just stuffed the walls full of rubber. So it was kind of like a solid rubber room, my first studio. It worked okay. I didn't really know why you even needed a soundproof room. I think I'd seen it on a film or something. I didn't know what I was doing. But anyway, I got in touch with Sound on Sound magazine just for a laugh. I thought maybe they'll think this is funny because I built it just from rubbish. And they did. And they came and they did a 5-page article about me and my studio, which in some weird way, even though it was a total piece of shit studio, it just gave me a boost. Like, maybe it's not actually about things being done correctly. Maybe it's more about things being done kind of imaginatively and possibly weirdly, maybe like weird stuff is the key, which is something that I kind of believe quite passionately about production, about songwriting, about any art really. I think like the best art starts from just this weird little kink, some weird little like a melody line over chords which shouldn't really work, but somehow it does, and it's just this tiny little thing. And if you build on that in the most kind of simple, potent way that you can, then I think more often than not it turns out to be kind of cool, interesting. Anyway, where was I? So at some point I outgrew that studio, and together with a couple of friends, I took over Trevor Horn's old studio in Brick Lane, which was a totally amazing, serendipitous bit of good fortune. But yeah, it was the old Psalm East in Osborne Street, which is at the bottom of Brick Lane. And we kind of tidied it up a bit. It was a pretty weird place. There was a huge mural, a kind of homoerotic kind of sculpture built into the wall in the live room. And it was just a great place. It was a proper 70s studio, which had definitely seen better days, but it was a proper studio, and it went pretty well. Like, we had a lot of people come and record there. I worked with Florence and the Machine there, doing some demos. Some guys from the Libertines did an album down there. Just loads of people, like really, like lots of people found out about it. We had quite a good collection of stuff by then between us. I was suddenly in the middle of this sort of melting pot of different people with different ideas, and people coming and different producers coming and using the studio, and I quickly realised, okay, actually no one really knows what the proper way to do things is. Everyone is kind of just seeing what happens. Everyone's just sort of making it up as they go along, in a kind of, with the benefit of their experience and with the benefit of their confidence. And obviously you need to know how a compressor works, and you need to know how EQ works. You know, these are tools, and you need to learn how the tools work. But it really doesn't take very long to do that. You know, it's more about just using them a lot, so that it becomes second nature, and you will form your own relationship with these tools. And that's the important thing. You will form your own relationship with different types of microphones, and with different types of compressors and rooms. You know, you will end up walking into a room, and if you know you're going to record in there, you will start thinking, like, how am I going to tame this space? I've had that with this studio a lot, you know. I'm kind of foolishly confident enough that I went into this designing it all myself. I've built a few studios in the past, and I thought, I'm just going to kind of do what feels right. I was lucky enough to get an acoustic engineer at the end of the process who helped me with the acoustic treatment in the live room, and it sounds great. I'm extremely happy with how it sounds. Is it the correct way to build a studio these days? I don't know, but it does have a vibe, it has character, and the sessions I've done here so far, people are extremely happy and inspired by this space. Maybe because it doesn't look like everybody else's studio. I don't know. Am I getting a bit off track here? What I'm trying to say, I don't want this to be too long, this video, but I guess what I'm trying to say is that if you are in the situation where you don't have any money, you really want to do something creative, you want to get into music, you want to make recordings, you want to record your friend's band, or you want to record your own band, but you don't think you could pull it off, I would say don't listen to anybody who says that you can't do that. Don't listen to anybody that says that you need a certain piece of equipment or a certain type of room or anything. Like, just go for it and use your ears and be extremely fussy with your ears. Like, what do you like? Like, really, what do you like? Don't be intimidated by the idea that you don't know what you're doing, because you have taste. The most important thing I've learned about production and engineering, that kind of stuff, is that people hire you above all because of your taste, because of your ears, because of what you think sounds cool. If you can develop that part of yourself, then you don't really need anything else. The other stuff just sort of happens by itself. You will know what type of guitar amp makes the kind of sound that you like. You will know what type of microphone makes the certain sound that you like. You will figure out what a cool sounding kick drum is just because you trust what you like. So I might just wrap it up there. I think I said everything I wanted to say. As promised, I'm going to end this video with a quick little tour of the control room here, which wasn't shown in last week's video. But yeah, I hope that has been useful to somebody out there. Just believe in your own beautiful weirdness, especially these days, especially with AI breathing down everyone's necks. I'm not as worried as everybody else about the creative ramifications of AI. I'm very worried about the other ramifications of AI. But creatively, I feel like AI is going to push the human race to become even more human and weird with the art that we make, because everything else is going to just feel even more generic. So I feel that there's a chance we're going to enter some kind of golden age of weird human art, which excites me very much. Okay, you're in luck, because usually this is a little more messy than this, but the fantastic Jaylan, who was here last week, tidied this place up beautifully. So this is my synth rack. Some of my keyboards here. There's a Casio and a Yamaha up on the top, a DX7 here, Korg R3, DW8000 here, which has the little breakout box, which is just basically unlocks all of the joy inside this synth. UDO Super 6, again, fucking cool synthesizer, and Moog Grandmother here. Casio sampling keyboard here, my modded 626 drum machine, which has got some extra ROMs in it, a few other bits and pieces, a couple more there. There's a Yamaha TX802, which is basically like a load of DX7s in one box. D50 there. Yeah, there's a few more things scattered about in the big room. Yeah, here next I've got my beloved Studer desk, 14 channels with EQ, and it's just, this is the kind of like classy sort of workhorse of the studio, I would say. Just everything sounds expensive through this thing. It doesn't have tons of character, but it just makes things sound really just wonderful and majestic. I've got these Tone Lux, there's 8 there, this kind of Roadster thing, which I really love it for stuff that should be a bit kind of edgy sounding, like electric guitars, even vocals sound really cool through this. It's just a bit more kind of like edgy sounding, and it has like a fader thing, so it's got the kind of preamp bit and then the fader knob, sort of this dual concentric thing, which is super useful. These guys, yeah, I mean, these are really expensive. I kind of treated myself to these when I sold the studio in Berlin. I'm still kind of getting my head around them. Sometimes they sound like the most amazing thing ever, like super three-dimensional, and sometimes they just sound kind of dull. It's kind of weird. I can't figure it out. Like, vocals sometimes sound really good through them, but other times they just sound really flat. And yeah, I don't know. They're just a bit of an enigma still, but I'm working it out. They do sound very good on piano. We learned that last week, and very good on acoustic guitar, that sort of thing. Yeah, pretty classy. Like, combined with the Sheps, maybe that's, I mean, you can't really go wrong. These with some Sheps mics. pretty good. These are a pair of Neve clones which I built myself, which are they're just fantastic. I think that if I had to pick anything in this studio, I would probably have these. The EQ is really good. They sound so good on bass. They sound amazing on vocals, kick drum, snare drum. They're just beautiful, amazing things. This this is something my dear friend Jeff made for me. This is a pair of tube preamps, which I said to him I wanted something which would just sound really filthy if I wanted. So I can't remember actually what he did, but this combination of knobs on the top, you just mess with it. It does. It definitely doesn't sound expensive. It's the opposite to this, but sometimes it's exactly what you need if you want something really kind of like fucked up sounding. Then this is cool. Underneath here I have this Acuverb spring reverb tube spring reverb thing, which is just amazing. Sounds so much better than any plug-in. Yeah, I love this thing. Boring headphone amps, converters, Lynx Aurora and an SSL, they're kind of chained together. So I've got like 30, how many have I got? 32, 36 channels, can't remember. More than enough. Moving over here, excuse these cables, a couple of distressors. I'm sure you all know what they are. I think if I had to choose any one compressor, I would take a distressor. I would have one of those Neve strips and I'd have a distressor. They're just amazing. These Electrodyne EQs, they're sort of like Quad 8. I think they're based on the Quad 8 stuff from the 50s and 60s. Very cool, very simple. I really like stuff which doesn't have too many knobs. You know, I like the Neve EQ because it's stepped. You know, you don't really get too many choices, and all of these frequency choices they're kind of musical frequency choices. You know, it's tried and tested. They figured out like what are the frequencies that make the biggest difference. And those are the ones that you need. I mean, it's good, you know, take a bit of the guesswork out of it, which brings me to this Kush Ultra parametric thing, which it's very surgical, but I just don't find myself using it. I'm thinking about selling these actually, because I don't know, they're just a bit fiddly, you know. This is cool, like stepped, everything's stepped, you choose your frequency. You know, the gain amount is stepped, and it's just you just get on with your life. You know, this you're just going to sit there for hours, kind of, I don't know. Yeah, I'm going to sell these. These basically just a fader thing. So the idea being that I could crank the output of one of these preamps into the Electrodyne EQ, which would really get the transformers in here cooking, because these have amazing big transformers in them. I'd be able to really crank the gain into these transformers and these EQs, and then just trim it back here into Pro Tools. That was kind of my thinking with getting these, and I've done it a few times. Yeah, it works. It's cool. These Tone Lux compressors, again, I don't really use them because for similar reasons that I don't really use these Kush EQs. They're just a little bit fiddly. It's like too much stuff built into too small a footprint. You know, they're very powerful and they're really good, and sometimes I do use them, but generally I'll go for something else. You know, I'll kind of use these last of all when I've run out of other stuff. Okay, moving over here, well, past my telephone volume control and talkback system. More on that another time. I have this thing someone made for me. It's basically a SSL master bus compressor clone. Sometimes works well. Phoenix tube compressor, very beautiful. You know, love this thing. It's really, that's a kind of classy piece of gear. Here I have my trusty Tascam 244. This isn't the one that I had when I was a kid, but yeah, it's kind of similar. And actually these are pretty hip right now. I've noticed that people are just like cranking the fuck out of the preamps to get this certain type of like really crusty solid state distortion. So somehow this thing is really hip again. There's a copycat sitting on top there, which is another cool thing. I have another Tascam tape deck there, which is very good for running stuff through and just distorting the hell out of onto tape, like drums and things. That's also very cool. Underneath that is a Culture Vulture, also very cool. If you know what that is, it's like a kind of tube distortion thing. So yeah, this is actually what I built on another video. This is my kind of vibe trolley here. So this is for stuff that needs to be distorted in a kind of, you know, in an interesting way. These are my kind of 3 options. Well, that doesn't really count. That is also a vibe maker though. And then finally over here we have the final rack. I have this Fairchild copy, which is made by Pom in England, who he used to service the gear at our place in Brick Lane. That's when I got to know him. And these days he just makes Fairchild clones, and he's kind of the guy, I think, in Europe anyway, for servicing Fairchilds. So I thought he would be a good bet to buy one of his. It's totally fantastic, sumptuous, classy, expensive sounding. You just run stuff through it and it just sounds better straight away. So yeah, very good. A couple of LA4s underneath. This gate, which I never use, just had it there. And then a couple of Pultec clones as well. Also, they sound really good. That's a really good value for money thing. It's a kit you get from AML. Right, what else? My tape machines, my poor tape machines. I never use these anymore. I will do one day. One day I will. This is a real killer one. This is a 1/2-inch 8-track Atari MX5050, I think. Yeah, really good machine. And then this Studer, an old EMI one. It's got a cool EMI cutting block on it, like splicing block. It's a cool thing. One day I will use you again, for sure. So there you go. Thanks very much for watching to the end of this, I think, quite long video. It was supposed to be like a mini video, but yeah. I hope it provides some kind of reassurance to somebody out there. Yeah, if anybody ever tells you that you don't know enough to make your art, then fuck them. And I'll see you next week. Lots of love, look after each other, and goodbye.